You have someone who clearly deserves whatever it is, and there's someone who's never played anything at a high level that will take away your accolades just to, I don't know, make themselves feel better, hold on to their own narrative. Man, that's a lesson for life.
I was just about to say, isn't that life though? We've all dealt with that in our own ways. We've all dealt with that. Just because you, just because you had an accolade, just because a lot of things don't necessarily mean it's going to go your way. And I mean no disrespect to this young brother when I say this, but look no further than Bronny James' situation. Like Bronny wasn't the best player on USC last year. There were other freshmen who had better seasons than him who didn't get drafted. Right? It's cool. His dad is who his dad is. So Bronny goes to the league. Bronny gets drafted like in the 40s, I believe, late in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, you get drafted in the 40s. Chances of you playing in the NBA it's not that high. Bronny played opening night.
Mm-hmm.
Bronny has played a few times. He's
Yeah.
still playing now.
Yeah.
Where it's rare that you see someone in the NBA that is get to learn on the job, and you're not a top pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
think about the people that are overseas right now who don't get that opportunity to play. So it doesn't always work in your favor that way. It just doesn't. And you can look at the flip side of the coin to that. Here's the other side. Where because LeBron was so great, it created an opportunity for his son. So either way you look, so there's one side that's like, man, I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm not getting this opportunity. But the other side of it is LeBron did so much of what he was supposed to do that it granted an opportunity for his son. So that's powerful in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Generational.
It's generational.
All right. So
Actually took time to learn about how incredible you were, nothing would ever stop you.
I'm going to start this off with, I got this text message. I'm going to read this to you. I want to get your thoughts about this. Man, I'm so happy the Chiefs lost. So sick and tired of seeing them win. Go Birds. Now, this is a Commanders fan.
Wasn't me.
That was you. But let me ask you a question. What do you think it is about people that has them think like that? That line that stuck out with me. I'm so tired of seeing the Chiefs win. What do you think that is about people? What do you think about that? Just tell me what you think about that.
Well, ironically, I've dealt with those questions a lot, just around some of the same topics. So I've had plenty of discussions around that. And one of my friends said this, and I was like, okay, never heard of that, but it made sense. She was like, I don't want Mahomes to win anymore. I was like, why? She's like, it's time for somebody else to win. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean it's time for someone else? Like, you don't let anyone win. Like, you have to dethrone the champ. It isn't given. Like, I'm like, do you not know how hard it is to get there? Why would you even want the champs to just say here? That's not the thing. You want to dethrone the champ. So what she told me was, she was like, she was never competitive. Like, that wasn't her thing. She was like, I wasn't a competitive person growing up.
Right.
So when she said that, I was like, okay, I understand that. For like that specific person, I was like, well, you didn't grow up in it's win or lose. This is what we do. Like, when I grew up, we lost, we cried. I remember my 75-pound year playing football. The first team that scored on us, we was crying on the field. The coaches had to tell us it's okay, like that happens. Nobody scored on us. That just wasn't the thing. We weren't used to that. So just a certain level of competitiveness grows into people. So I think that's one answer. And then the other answer is, I think sometimes, and this is no one in particular I'm talking about here, but I think that sometimes people have never strived to get something to that degree. They've never been truly the man in the arena. So because they haven't, they don't understand the blood, the sweat, and the tears that it takes to get there, or how hard it is to win a championship, let alone two and go for a third. They can't grasp that concept. So it's easy to say, well, it's somebody else's, let somebody else win, or I'm sick and tired of them. But if you're somebody that ever truly strive for something to that degree, you more or less likely to want to see greatness. Like, hey, if the Eagles beat them, I want to see that because that means you had to dethrone the champ. But I don't want to see the champ just give it away. I want to see the champ go down like a champ.
So the reason I'm asking this question is because I think you're kind of alluding to what I'm talking about, or what my thought was. Do you feel that I may be wrong, but I feel like only people who've never competed would say something like that.
Yeah, I think that's essentially what it is. If you haven't competed, well, we
I'm
have to
talking
put
about like,
stages in competition though, because some people can compete. Just like
I mean, like at the highest level.
there we go, there you go. At the highest level, some people haven't competed to that level, so that's a different mentality.
Hmm.
So you have to almost reassess who you're having that conversation with, and then have it from that perspective. Like, okay, I can't look at it from how I competed. I have to put myself in your shoes and say, okay, if you haven't competed at that, I understand your answer. Then, like,
Yes.
yeah,
What I was looking at, and it's funny because you've heard that before. Like you remember when the Patriots were on their run doing their thing.
hmm
I mean, people just hated on them because here they go, Patriots are gonna win again. And I remember always thinking, well, until you beat them, you didn't beat them.
right,
But it's interesting that fans would say something like they would say something like that. They want to see the best, but they want to see the best only so much because it's not entertaining or something like that. Like it's not the actual battle of it that we're being looked at. It's the entertainment value. Like, I've already seen this movie, not realizing these are the best athletes for this sport America's produced, and to be able to do it one, two, or three times, you're the most elite. And I know the Eagles won. I'm happy for them. It's great, but it's real crazy how fast things have turned.
yeah,
Because you remember a few years ago, people were Mahomes and the sidearm passes, and he's crazy. He's on a whole other level. Now it's like, I don't want to see him win again. Isn't that wild?
yeah. I mean, that's when hasn't that happened in sports? Everyone loves. I was just thinking about this the other day, but it's more related to basketball. But in football, I guess it's the same too. So there's one award
Hmm.
that, in my opinion, is never given to the person it truly should be given to the vast majority of the time. That's the MVP award. The reason I say that is because typically, if you notice when someone's an MVP,
Yeah.
they usually make it their first year because they either came out of nowhere or they did something that we haven't seen or that they haven't done before. But once the world is accustomed to whatever that new floor is, it's never valued the same. So LeBron probably could have more MVPs. Kobe could have had more MVPs. But now it's almost like it's this person's turn now to get it, right?
Okay. Does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't. But then here's where it gets interesting, right? If you look at, I think Lamar has two MVPs, right?
Uh huh.
If you look at his stats from his first one to his second one into this year, the one that he didn't win this year, his stats this year was way better than the two he won the MVP.
Yes.
But once they gave it to you for the first time, because that first MVP or second, they could have gave that one to somebody else who they felt was deserving. They
Okay.
could have gave that one to someone else who was killing it that year. But chances are the person that was killing it that year probably already had one. So they're like, no, we're going to give it to someone fresh. So now Lamar is suffering from that now, where he's suffering from his level of greatness, where he had a better year than Josh Allen, but Josh Allen doesn't have one. So to then give it to Lamar is to put him in a whole nother category. So
I was battling on that one. Let me tell
Lamar,
you, right? Because numbers are numbers. Numbers are not interpretive. Numbers are numbers. Like, so if I score 17, let's say I score 17 touchdowns
yeah,
and you score 12 touchdowns as an example, right?
hmm
And I've already won two MVPs
Yeah.
but it's just you and I going head to head. In the at a certain point, it becomes like a two person race, right?
Yeah.
And I score more than you. All my numbers are better than you. How do you win it? Just because? How do you win it? Just because it's like we've already given it to them, so let's give it to somebody else.
Because they're used to you now. So your what? Let's say your floor is like extremely high. Like it's nothing LeBron can do. It's nothing Lamar can do. It's nothing that Patrick Mahomes can do that can really awe you at this point. Because well, it should awe you.
But what
Because
about the numbers?
yeah, well, see the numbers. This is what I'm saying. If someone was to average 30 points a game, right, and
Yeah,
they just thought that's phenomenal. But if you average 30 for 10 years, they don't value it the same no more because
yeah.
now it's no longer like, oh my, I can't believe it. It's the expectation, even though it's still phenomenal that you did that.
Which brings my other point, okay? Because like the press that vote for the MVP,
Yeah,
how many of them are former athletes?
I wouldn't even be able to tell you.
I'm gonna say like none. I'm gonna say like none. Maybe I mean you have to be a writer for the Associated Press. So you have to be in they're in the writers corps, something
Yeah,
like that. So let's just assume none of them are. And the people that you see on the let's assume none of them are professional athletes. I'm not a professional athlete, right?
yeah.
But what you just said is so important because what you're telling me, which is probably true, is even though you're clearly the better person, the better athlete, or had a better season, because you've already done amazing, so amazing, I need you to amaze me more, which has nothing to do with numbers. See, man, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is stuff that irritates the bejesus out of me, because if it's about merits and if your merits are better than my merits, you should beat me. Like, you should beat me. That's why you see a lot of people check out mentally when they're in situations where it's subjective. Because to me, this shouldn't be very subjective. It should be numbers versus numbers. And they're gonna say, well, in this case, like let's say Lamar. Lamar had more help with Derrick Henry. Okay. But he still had better numbers. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand.
Well, it's not straight numbers to numbers. It can't be that
Why not?
because numbers can be skewed, and I'm not saying it's Lamar case, but numbers can be skewed from situations. So when I played basketball, I always talked about like when they compare who was a better player between this person and that person.
Uh huh.
I'm like, what's the impact of the points that person had? So this person over here might have 24. I used to always say this. Okay, let's say that person has 24, and this person has 16. Doesn't necessarily mean the person that had 24 had a better game because it's the impact of when that person may have scored 16, how that person may have scored 16. Your 24 you could have scored 24 points that, in essence, somebody else could have gotten. It wouldn't have really changed the game. But this person who scored 16, when they scored a big bucket, if he didn't score that, no one else was going to score it. Like all of those little nuances matter in terms of that. But you got to have a certain eye and an IQ for the sport to look at it that way. Not saying that that's Lamar, but just saying that numbers can be skewed like that. So you can't just necessarily look. It's not apples to apples technically. But Lamar, I think, definitely had the better year this go around than
Man,
Josh Allen.
2,300, 2,379 passing yards versus just over 2,000 for Josh Allen.
What was their records?
20, hold on a second. 20 passing touchdowns for Lamar, 17 for Josh Allen, two interceptions each, 505 rushing yards, at least when this was taken, because I just looked this up last minute, and 211 for Josh Allen, two rushing touchdowns for Lamar, three rushing touchdowns for Josh Allen, at least when this came out. So I don't know if this is accurate before the end of the year, but what I'm saying is, I mean, I get what you're saying. I really do. And I know everything is not political, but sort of kind of political. Like, I get that there's politics. There's politics in the Grammys. There's politics in the academies. Whenever I remember I was sitting there watching this program, and it's like, I remember seeing this. I can't remember what the movie was, but it was some movie that won for best something. And I'm thinking, who saw this movie? I never, you know, a movie like, you never heard of this movie. No one you know has heard of this movie, but
Yeah,
this movie beats movies you have heard of
yeah.
that did better because it was like all the subjective stuff is really. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. I get it, but I don't appreciate it because you know when in business, like things are concrete, and in my mind, sports should be concrete. Like it'd be like Usain Bolt winning the gold medal, but the guy who came in number two wore fancier shorts, so he won like some special award because Usain beat him clearly, but he didn't beat him fancy enough. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't float for me. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying it doesn't float for me.
But I got to challenge what you just said though. Not because I disagree, but
I get it.
you said something that requires me to challenge. You said that in business
Yeah.
things are concrete, and then your follow up statement was in my mind. As soon as I heard that, it jogged me back to the first thing we talked about,
Uh huh.
where the girl said that she wasn't competitive. So in your mind, based upon what you do and your wiring, that is like black or white.
Yeah, sure. I get that.
So the people who may be doing this who are voting,
It's gray and orange.
yeah, it's all types of colors apparently, or it's just like, hey, we've seen this person at this level before. We've seen this, and I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that's what I envision that is probably going on, where they're just so used to or accustomed to, where sometimes a player like Lamar can get robbed in that case because, like, literally, this was his best year, like hands down, stat wise. So to the average person looking, well, how doesn't he win the MVP this year if he won it last year and his stats was better this year than last year, and his stats was way better this year and last year than they were his first year? So are you saying that those 2 years he shouldn't have won? Like, what are we saying here? And that's where it gets dicey. But once they see the level that you are now, it's only like kind of up from there, and that's where the color of the water gets real murky at that point. It's
You
just
know, I was thinking about. So I'm really happy for Jalen Hurts, and the reason I'm happy for him is because you know you're not happy for him.
I don't like fans in Philadelphia. Oh, they troll me every day,
Well, okay. I mean, all
and
right.
they say
I
they
mean,
keep
that's like
trying to say
Bella.
he's an
That's
elite
Bella
quarterback.
I-95. I mean, from
They
Philly
keep
down to
saying he's
Atlanta.
an elite quarterback. They try to compare him to Mahomes and Burrow. He's not. He's not those guys. He's good.
Okay, so he's not those guys.
He's
He's
good.
not those guys.
Yeah,
But he is a Super Bowl champ
and a winner. Yes.
and an MVP.
Let's leave it at that.
Okay, but skill wise, you're saying he's not at the level of Burrows.
Yeah, he's not at their level of quarterback. But I have to say this with this statement in mind, because Philadelphia fans, they kind of take this and go elsewhere. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts isn't a good quarterback. He's
Right.
definitely NFL caliber quarterback. To me, he's a top 7 quarterback.
Right.
He's good at what he does.
Okay, what does he do that okay? Because if you're not putting him in the top five,
Yeah.
all right, so then what is he not doing that the top five does? And when you say top five, like give me your top five. You're talking about like Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar, like who else are your top five?
Lamar Allen and me, this may be a little biased. You know I'm going my quarterback.
Okay,
He's
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
James Daniels.
Yeah,
But
James, yeah.
but this is just from what my eye test. What I What hurts, he's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He's in a great team and a system that fits him. So when I say top 5 quarterbacks, and I just did this analogy with somebody in the office today who's a Eagles fan. I said, okay, outside of like a Mahomes, maybe a Lamar, let's say like a Allen and Burrow, maybe for this example.
Uh-huh.
If you were to take Jaden Daniels off the Commanders and put the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL on that team, would the team have got that far? No. If you were to take Jalen Hurts off the Eagles, how many people could you put on the Eagles that could have took them still to the Super Bowl and potentially won?
Because the rest of the squad was so tight.
The rest of but that's not a knock against him.
It just means he's in a very favorable situation.
That's all I'm saying to the Eagles fans. I say it's not a knock against him, but it becomes a knock when you guys talk about it in a way that it's not. Like, oh, he's top 2 now. No, he's in a situation that's very good for him. Jalen Hurts, I gotta give him his props. He's a hell of a leader. He's you could tell he's about his business. He's a leader of men. He knows how to win. He's always won. Those are great, things of who he is. You cannot take that from him. But you're not about to sit here and say he's like elite beyond these other guys.
Okay, but like 2 years ago, right, when he battled out Mahomes,
Yeah,
like everyone would say he outplayed Mahomes.
played pretty good. Yeah,
Okay, so if you outplay Mahomes in the Super Bowl,
still a game. It's still a game matchup. I don't think he outplayed Mahomes in that moment because when it got down to the nitty gritty, what happened? You also have to remember this, James. The Eagles have the best offensive line in football.
I mean, that was clear. That was on display.
He has
He had a
53 sacks.
sandwich. You tell him to have a sandwich and microwave some popcorn.
This is the thing. If anyone studies Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
his passing style, he has to see everything first. So he has to take his time. What that means is if he's under pressure or things sped up, he's not good as nowhere near as good because he doesn't operate like that as a quarterback. I could tell you who did it all year under pressure.
Jaden?
Andrews did.
Yeah.
Like he had no line. So what
Yeah.
I'm saying is it's not to take anything away from Hurts. Not to take anything away from Hurts. He's in a favorable position. You don't take nothing away from him for that. You also don't add nothing to that for that. Just hey,
Okay, so you're saying like they would call it empty calories. Like an empty calorie leader is like it what he does, not anybody could do, but almost anybody could do. Like where he is right now in your mind, put Dak Prescott with the Eagles. He wins the
I
Super
don't know if he's that level of a leader though, Dak Prescott. But I think the Eagles still have a daggone good team. They just wouldn't run the ball as much because Dak is a better thrower. Which the Eagles have a good receiving core though. So my point is, you sub Hurts out. It depends on who you sub him out for. The offense has so many pieces where if you sub him out for a quarterback that can't throw as much, you still hand the ball off to Saquon. If you sub him out for a quarterback who can throw the ball a lot more, then you spread the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So the style that the Eagles play now, it works for Hurts. Hurts gonna throw the ball for like 200. He gonna run for about 75. That's the makeup of how he makes that team work. But if you take him off and put other formidable quarterbacks, I'm talking about like a second string. Even if you put a second string quarterback, I still
like
think
a
they can.
Joe Burrow or whatever.
Oh, if you put Joe Burrow, Lord, if you put Mahomes, if you put Lamar, you put Josh Allen, you put Jay Dash, you put Justin Herbert, you put Matthew Stafford, you put the list could go. There's a couple probably quarterbacks I'm not thinking of right now, but if you put them there, Dak Prescott maybe I think they have a chance to do something. That's just my. If you put Tua and he don't hit his head, no offense, because he hit his head, stuff happens. But if you put Tua, he could stay healthy. He might could do something because he's a gunslinger.
Oh my God, he is a gunslinger, but yes, the head situation is a situation. Yeah,
Yeah, so if he could stay healthy, if Tua could stay healthy, then I think he could flourish in that because we saw what he could do when he healthy.
yeah,
And he don't have a running back like that. Well, he do a little bit, but
if he don't not hit his head. All right, so
that was the best way I could say that.
oh God, okay, all right, because I'm processing all this stuff, man, and that really that this whole thing started because of that one quote, right? Because I think about what it must be like to be an athlete today, and I don't think it's probably just more present because we have social media and we have all these different things to be able that they have to see. But I can understand why these guys get so jaded to the masses where they just lock stuff down because you're doing your best, you're playing whatever you're playing. You're clearly like I can think about years that Kobe should have won the MVP that it didn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, and you're someone who just analyzes what you do all the time. Like that's got to be the thing. You're sitting there, you're working hard. Someone who just analyzes what you're doing is saying, you know what? I don't like his attitude. I'm not going to give him the MVP. I'm not going to vote for him to get the MVP this year. I mean, because for a lot of the stuff, they said that part of Kobe's issue was his personality. You know, some people didn't like he wasn't warm enough to the media. Which what does that have to do with what he does on the court? Or same thing with Shaq. He talked about it as well. Like people just didn't. You know, there's issues and all that, and that's what blows me away. You have someone who clearly deserves whatever it is, and there's someone who's never played anything at a high level that will take away your accolades just to, I don't know, make themselves feel better, hold on to their own narrative. Man, that's a lesson for life.
I was just about to say, isn't that life though? We've all dealt with that in our own ways. We've all dealt with that. Just because you had an accolade, just because a lot of things don't necessarily mean it's going to go your way. And I mean no disrespect to this young brother when I say this, but look no further than Bronny James' situation. Like Bronny wasn't the best player on USC last year. There were other freshmen who had better seasons than him who didn't get drafted. Right? It's cool. His dad is who his dad is. So Bronny goes to the league. Bronny gets drafted like in the 40s, I believe, late in the draft. Mm-hmm. Usually you get drafted in the 40s, chances of you playing in the NBA it's not that high. Mm-hmm. Bronny played opening night. Mm-hmm. Bronny has played a few times. He's still playing now. Yeah. Where it's rare that you see someone in the NBA, that is, get to learn on the job, and you're not a top pick.
Yeah.
So, think about the people that are overseas right now who don't get that opportunity to play. So it doesn't always work in your favor that way. It just doesn't. And you can look at the flip side of the coin to that. Here's the other side, where because LeBron was so great, it created an opportunity for his son. So either way you look, so there's one side that's like, man, I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm not getting this opportunity. But the other side of it is LeBron did so much of what he was supposed to do that it granted an opportunity for his son. So that's powerful in that as well.
Yeah, generational.
It's generational.
All right, so let me ask you this question. You got Shador, you got Cam.
Cam, you see what's going on?
I see.
That's my nephew. That's my nephew, Cam Ward. You know that?
The family reunion is supposed to be something special.
Yeah, Cam Ward, that's my nephew. Yeah. My nephew, Cam.
Right. So, in no scenario would you ever take Shador over Cam?
Okay, listen here, James. First of all, I'm a diehard Miami fan. If you think you can't call me when the Commanders is playing, try calling me the day before that. I might lose my mind, because you lose one game of college, it's over.
Okay.
If you actually took time to learn about how incredible you were, nothing would ever stop you. See, the definition of sight is the faculty or power of seeing.